And I remember living in New Jersey. I remember living in New York, Connecticut, Florida, Puerto Rico, and different places. And of course, as I grew up and kind of broke away from my family, believe it or not, I don't know if it's something that you know inherit or whatever, but I always liked going different places and traveling. So even as an adult man, I lived in a bunch of different states. I started following these guys. I remember being instantly hooked. And I would make cardboard, just like you see all these other guys in their documentaries. I'd make cardboard belts. I would, I can't even begin to tell you all. I took a pair of roller skates one time. I'll never forget. They were sissy looking white high top roller skates. Some old school one. The boots were white and they had a little. I remember taking the wheels off those things and grinding down, sanding down the heel and making those a pair of wrestling boots. And I said to myself, you know, one day, you know, you hear this all the time. A lot of guys say this, but you know, I said one day I'll be in that ring. One day I'll be on TV, and that's kind of how it started for me. I started like a lot of guys did. I started by running little shows, in the neighborhood. Believe it or not, me and my father, again, he was such a supportive guy. Me and him would go out and collect cans at night. I kid you not. He worked an 8-hour job, but he would go with me collect cans. He said, if you want me to build you a ring, because I wanted an actual ring, you've got to help me come up with the money. So we would collect cans, and I did that for 6-7 months, and I bought a ring piece by piece. But I stuck with Al Bold Eagle for his sake. And then I started to wander off into, I guess, enemy territory. It turns out that he had a lot of heat with, of all people, the unpredictable Johnny Rodz.
Oh, wow.
The very first time I went to Johnny's school, Gleason's gym, 2nd floor, on Front Street in Brooklyn, New York. I'll never forget it. He said, hey, you kid, get in the ring. You want to train? You're going to train with us? You got to train. He would talk like that. He sort of had an accent. Took me in the ring, and he starts to, man, he was potatoing me. Older guys potato, that means they were really laying it in, Starts to stretch me, and man, he starts to really work me over, and he really took me to the limit. He started booking me for shows. Now, keep in mind now that I, up to this point, hadn't done any real big shows with my cousin, just little bullshit shows here and there. So Johnny gives me my first break. It was at Ridgewood Arena. He says, you're working Nikolai Volkoff, kid. Put him over. Everywhere you went, kayfabe was alive and well. That was just something that it was instilled in you. And a lot of us guys that were fortunate enough to have been part of that era. I hate to say this because it sounds like I'm hanging on to something, and I need to let go. But that kayfabe lives in us somewhat still. We showed up at one of their shows one time, one of their TV shows, and we got to talking to the booker, who at that time was a man by the name of Jose Huertas Gonzalez, a.k.a. the Invader. He was the booker at the time. And I remember him saying, okay, you two boys, we can use you, but you look too skinny. He was talking about me. Within a year working for WWC, well, back then Capital Sports Promotions, within 1 year, the first year I was there, 87, the end of 87 to the end of 88, in just 1 year, I worked Scott Hall, the Iron Sheik, Kendo Nagasaki, Mr. Pogo, Stan Hansen, Bruiser Brody, Abdullah the Butcher, the Great Buddha. And then everything came to a damn halt. I decided to leave the island with a bunch of other Americanos, because that's when the whole thing with Bruiser Brody happened, and kind of kept to himself. Of course, him and Stan Hansen were very close. But he always had good words for me. I guess, I don't know if it's because he felt sorry for me, or maybe he was just anti-establishment. I don't know. Maybe he just had a problem with promoters, because he was a shrewd businessman. Bruiser Brody was the kind of guy you didn't want to not pay. Jose Gonzalez is, he's an odd individual. I know him personally, and I remember vividly, I'm not afraid to say it, I remember vividly that all the times that he was a dick towards me. A lot of.
Well, it was, July 16th, 1988. All of your old school wrestling fans will always remember that being the night that Brody was murdered. You were actually there in the locker room, weren't you?
I sure was. It was a baseball stadium. I'll never forget. Thousands of people there. I'm right outside the door. And I remember I wasn't on the card. At that time I was just a jobber, really. But I was running errands and doing stuff for the company, putting up the ring and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, we see Jose Gonzalez coming in. The person I was with, me and a guy named Jose Baron something, I forget his name. We see Jose come back in, and he has his shirt, and he has a towel covering his arm. But we didn't. It was so fast, we didn't even think about it till afterwards.